Today in our short video lesson, we're going to be using this I can statement. I can explain what safe rounding is and when to use it. This might be the first time you've ever heard of the term safe rounding, and you've probably just heard of rounding before. And for the purpose of this video, we are going to talk about safe rounding and ordinary rounding. Ordinary rounding is what you're used to doing. We'll use a tree map to show the differences between ordinary rounding and safe rounding. Ordinary rounding you use in everyday life. Let's use this problem as an example. Let's pretend that two friends have a collection of beans. One friend has 37 beans and one friend has 58 beans. They want to know about how many beans they have in all. Well, I can easily round this to the nearest 10, each of them to the nearest 10, and then add them to figure out how many do they have in all. So I would do this to start. I would underline the tens place, circle the ones place because the ones place is going to tell me to round up or down. And I say 0 through 4 hit the floor, or 5 through 9 climb the vine. So that means, is it going to round to 30, or is it going to go 10 more to 40? Well, 7 is closer to 40, closer to the next 10, so this is going to round to 40 beans. And 50, I do the same thing. It's either going to round down to 50, the tens place stays the same, or it's going to round up to 60, and the 8 tells me that yes, it is going to round up to 60. So now I've got my rounded numbers. I'm going to add 40 plus 60 beans, and I get 100 beans. There was no reason to be safe there because I just really wanted to know about how many beans do I have. Or actually, do the friends have altogether? Let's pretend for a minute that we are dealing with money. And we'll say a person has $65. Let's call this person Maggie so that we have a name to put with it. So Maggie has $65. Maggie really wants to buy a collection of books for $44. And she also wants to buy some writing supplies because she loves writing. And the writing supplies cost $24. Now, if I were to do regular rounding or ordinary rounding, both of these numbers would round down. So it would be closer to 20 because the 4 tells me to round down. And likewise here, this one would be closer to 40 than it is to 50, so I would round down. So if I used this rounding method, 40 plus 20, remember this is ordinary right now, that's a little easier to read. If I'd used ordinary rounding, I would say 40 plus 20 is $60. So the total cost of those two items would be about $60, which is true, but this tells me that she could afford it. Well, she's got $65 and she only has to spend $60, so yeah, she can afford it. But if I actually look at the real numbers, remember the real numbers are 44 plus 24, I would get $68, which shows me that no, she actually does not have enough money. So we need to do something called safe rounding to ensure that we have enough money. We also do this when we're dealing with time. So safe rounding builds in extra time or money. So here's the big idea for today. Safe rounding builds in extra time or money to an equation by rounding both numbers up. So let's take 44 and 24 again. So here's my setup for rounding. Safe rounding assumes that I'm going to need more money. So I'm going to take I'm going to round both of the numbers up. So instead, now I have 50 plus 30 equals $80, which now it shows me I probably don't have enough money. Another way people do this is sometimes to round to the nearest 5, or to round up to the next 5, sorry. So in this case, rounding down to the nearest 5 would still be 40 and 20, but rounding up would be 5 more. 40 plus 5 is 45, and 20 plus 5 is 25. So in this case, if I take those rounded up numbers, 45 plus 25, it says that it's going to cost about $70, which again is not enough money. We also do this with time to make sure that we have enough time to get places. Today you'll be looking at a problem that has to do with driving to an airport. Well, an airport is really important to get to on time because the plane is not going to wait for you. So you have to round up to the next number, usually to the nearest 10. Sometimes you can do it to the nearest 5 if you want to challenge yourself. But to make sure that you have enough money or time to either buy something or to get someplace. So one last look. Rounding can be broken into 2 categories. Ordinary rounding, which just rounds to the nearest, 10, 100, 1,000, whatever. And safe rounding, which we know safe rounding builds in extra time or money by rounding both numbers up. And we do that with time and with money to make sure that we are safe in our estimates.